Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. No. Please, thank you, thank you. So it's really wonderful to be here. Good evening, everyone, and warm greetings to you all. It's really a great pleasure. Eileen, I am really honored and pleased to be here tonight to celebrate you and your election to the presidency of this extraordinary institution, the National Press Club. This honor speaks to your many fine qualities, some of which we've heard tonight from your friends, but from my standpoint, it's your professionalism, your hard work, and the confidence that your peers have in your ability to lead this highly respected organization during these extraordinarily challenging times. So here in the United States, I'm telling this group here something they already know even better than I do, is that a free press is something that we often take for granted. Yet, as we daily navigate an environment which is saturated with information lacking any discerning guides or guideposts, it has become clear, certainly to me and what I've experienced over the last few years, that a free and fair press is truly the bedrock upon which our healthy democracy stands. I thought those were only words when I heard them as a young man in my early training, but now what we've gone through over the last few years makes me feel that this is truly a reality. I commend all of you in this room in the press corps for what you do every single day to support truth and transparency. I came to know Eileen really quite well, albeit virtually. I just met her personally for the first time after speaking to her maybe 100 times over the last 3 years, during many multiple phone call conversations that she and I had during some of the most intense periods of this historic COVID-19 pandemic. She consistently demonstrated that she was a credit to her profession. She asked important questions. She was not agenda-driven. She did not under or overestimate or emphasize. And when I told her something, her story inevitably got it right. And that was really a breath of fresh air from what we have been going through with social media. Now, I was fortunate enough to attend Regis High School in New York City, a Jesuit high school where I learned the fundamental Jesuit principles that have been tenets throughout my career: staying faithful to the truth, even truths that may be inconvenient. That got me in a little bit trouble there last administration. And communicating for understanding according to the adage, precision of thought and economy of expression. These and other Jesuit principles were then honed to an even greater extent during my 4 years at the College of the Holy Cross, another Jesuit institution. And so, in looking up Eileen's background, I was delighted to learn, as we've heard from her friends and roommates, that we have something in common, as she also was educated in the Jesuit tradition, having attended Marquette University in Minnesota. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, excuse me. Milwaukee. I know Marquette, they got a great basketball team. And thus, it does not surprise me that she manifests qualities that I spoke about earlier that have been pillars of my own life and career, and that I believe are equally important to her profession as a journalist as well. So in this regard, I want to give a shout out to the news organization that Eileen works for, and many of you in this room do, Axios. Because in this world of excessive information of varying quality, and a surfeit of information platforms vying for everyone's attention, the Axios model of smart brevity gets you smarter, faster on what matters. There must be a Jesuit in there somewhere. That is just what the doctor ordered. It's really a balm for our frazzled minds. And as I described already, Eileen perfectly adheres to and reflects this fundamental precept of Axios. You all should be very proud of her as your standard bearer. Now, most recently, Axios has highlighted a bigger problem that exists and troubles me very deeply, and that is the erosion of truth, trust, safety, and sanity in the news. Sadly, this phenomenon found a foothold. It grew exponentially and now has roots in our country and around the world. Misinformation and disinformation not only have made the implementing and affecting public health response to the pandemic extraordinarily difficult, something that has been very painful to me personally, they pose fundamental threats to our democracy here and everywhere. And if anybody doesn't appreciate that, they're really not paying attention. And so in closing, and before we get to the important purpose of my being here tonight to swear Eileen in as your 116th president, let me close with a plea to all of you. Please firmly reject the normalization of untruths. I just cannot emphasize this point enough. It's in our collective responsibility to call misinformation and disinformation what they are. Not harmless chatter, but unsafe. If we are not clear-sighted and vigilant, we risk our society deteriorating into a way of life where veracity becomes subservient to propaganda rather than upheld as a guiding principle for creating and sustaining a just social order. So I know many of you, and yeah, no kidding. You know, I know maybe hearing that from a public health official, you might think, and I think appropriate so, why am I talking about that? It's because if ever there was a situation where misinformation and disinformation has a profoundly destructive effect, it's in the arena of public health, where people wind up either avoiding or even propagating against life-saving interventions based merely on misinformation, disinformation, and political ideology. So I know many of you and your news organizations have taken an active role in fighting this misinformation and disinformation, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the efforts in this regard. So now let us get on with making Eileen your official new president. So let's do that.